Okay, so the two of you have referenced quality of products, whether it be testing, extraction. So there's another, whether it's a misconception or a perception, which I would like the three of you to address, but by the general public, that the quality of the medical marijuana provided here in New York is really not on par with what we can get in other states. And I see one of the people in the audience with a big thumbs down. So again, the perception is out there. So if you guys could address how we ensure quality here in New York, and how does that compare to other states? So certainly I know at least Vireo and Columbia Care, you guys are in other states. So please address quality of products.
Columbia Care is in 9 other states. However, New York is the only state that they're practicing in or having dispensaries in that actually are under the non-flowering state rule. So we have to extract everything. We actually do think, though, that New York has the best quality out of all of our states. And I think that it's a very refined product. It's very clean. It's tested before it leaves our facility. It's also tested in Wadsworth, up in Albany, before it goes to the consumer. It's also the only state that we are able to get an exact milligram dosage, and I think that is what we need to focus on in terms of really winning over the medical community. Doctors want to see milligram amounts and how much treats their patients, so I think that is the key there.
I want to take that concept a step further, and this can go back to you or to either one of you guys. So a part of quality of the products, there's a lot of concern, again, that I hear in the general public about where it all starts from. So are there genetics on the seeds that you guys use, and where do the seeds come from? Let me start with that, and then I think I'll take quality into a few other different directions. Can either of you start with answering that question?
Yeah, I mean, I think quality is absolutely key, right? If we're getting a product, a medicine that doesn't have quality, then what are we doing? I think that quality starts, at the greenhouse, right? And hiring incredible horticulturists, that it's the cultivation of that plant where quality is truly going to begin. And even a step before that is genetics, which oftentimes gets in that realm of proprietary, right? And we can guarantee that our horticulturists are incredibly excited about genetics. And my last read is there's over 6,300 strains. Somebody might know better than I on that, but there's no way we're going to be able to replicate 6,300 strains when we're allowed 5 products. But what we can do within the constraints of the program is create 5 absolutely amazing products with ratios, and again, dosing that a physician or a provider or nurse practitioner can understand, of the highest quality. And that means taking care of those plants. I put up a sign in our greenhouses that says heal. Right? And some people laugh at me, but for me, it goes to that extent of the energy that you're giving that plants, and then through the entire extraction process. That this is done in the best possible manner to a third-party testing at Wadsworth Laboratory, where we're absolutely certain there's not heavy metals, there's not fungal elements, there's not bacteria. This has within 5% of that stated dosage. I would argue, too, that the quality of New York is incredible. And sometimes when I hear criticisms of quality, I mean, what are we talking about? We have to talk facts. Is it not helping your illness? What is your illness? What product are you using? And it's probably that we don't have you on the right product rather than the quality is not good.
I think there's also kind of a misconception. We get a lot of comparison to the California market. We're looking at going in the California market, and everyone says, the oil isn't the right color or something like that. And, I think that people don't understand that what we're producing is a real plant. It is whole plant extract, and what you're getting is a pharmaceutical grade product. We don't dilute it like you would see in California to get that golden color that everybody wants, because that's not natural. And what we are producing here is quality, and it's medicine. And I do stand behind that New York has the highest quality and the highest grade of products that are available on the market for patients. I don't think they've been seen anywhere else in the country, really, honestly. This is new to be the products that we are selling, tinctures and that kind of thing. Yes, they exist elsewhere, but not to this level. So I really stand behind the New York program. That's why we got involved in this, because it's a medical program, and they treat it as such. And as far as genetics, we started with 50 strains. We're only allowed to sell up to 5. So we really do try and find the best strains. My sister is in charge of the greenhouses. We're not allowed to use pesticides. We're regulated at every aspect of our business. Everything that goes in there has to be pharmaceutical grade. So I really think that the whole manufacturing process and establishment in New York is focused on the patient and making sure that what we are providing them is the highest quality.
Thank you very much. So when you say whole plant extract, really what you're saying is other cannabinoids other than what we're required to measure and label, meaning THC and CBD, are not removed or extracted. Likewise, terpenes are also left intact and in the final product, even though it's not something that we're required to label or measure.
I think that kind of depends on the organization. I can speak for myself that that's what we do. There are fractionation processes, and everyone has a different, unique way of manufacturing the product. We're only allowed to use CO2, and we're only allowed to or alcohol extraction. So we're not allowed to do butane extraction that would leave like harmful solvents or residue that people might be inhaling, or you don't know what the long-term effects are. And generally, CO2 and alcohol provides a whole plant extract.
How much of your impression is that when people think that the quality of the product isn't as good, are they potentially, the people that say that, are they potentially comparing the medical product to recreational, whether it's underground black market recreational or recreational from a legal state, whereas if you're getting a higher CBD ratio or an even CBD to THC ratio, you're not going to have the psychogenic effects, or not nearly as much. Even if you get a higher THC to CBD ratio, at the ratios that each of the dispensaries are actually carrying, it doesn't really compare to, at a 19 to 1, 20 to 1 THC higher than CBD. That doesn't compare at all to what you might find an OG Kush that might be an 80 to 1 THC to CBD. Is that what you think people are referring to when they say their products aren't on the same quality?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, patients that have experienced other forms and in other markets, we're in New York, we are specifically restricted to a cap of 10 milligrams per dose. So that does limit us in terms of how high in THC our products are. And I think it's more about the THC content, they would label it as or not as good quality. However, it's just maybe not as high of a concentration that you may have been used to. But smaller concentrations have actually been very effective in terms of treating patients' pain, and we've seen that in thousands of patients so far.
So the next question I have, kind of on par with quality and what people may be used to either in other states or black market. So obviously here in New York, the way the regulations have been laid out, you can each carry and dispense up to 5 brands. And I know that was an intentional move to get away from the pot culture of strains. I don't know if there's 6,300 strains, but there's certainly many, and maybe someone out there can later on tell us how many strains there actually are out there. But for the general public, especially the general public that has cannabis experience, they're very interested in what these brands, the plants that originated, that developed into these brands that you're carrying. Are these plants that you guys are growing and cultivating? Are they sativas? Are they indicas? Are they hybrids? And then you also referenced a number of strains that I think you said 50 strains, but you're coming up with 5 brands. So again, are those strains, are they indicas, sativas, hybrids, and what strains are you using to extract and turn into a final medical product? And then the last part of that multi-step question is, does it matter? So in New York, we really focus on THC versus CBD content. I know in the recreational world, the strains, people are interested because it's a different kind of psychogenic effect. It's a different kind of high that you get. But in the medical world, if I'm treating someone's spasticity, neuropathy, seizures, does it matter that it came from an OG Kush, it came from Super Lemon Haze, or is it really about getting the right concentrations of THC and CBD? Do any of you want to start with that?
For instance, when we started, we thought we had Charlotte's Web. I could call anything Charlotte's Web. it's not associated with a ratio of THC, CBD, and the underlying cannabinoids. And that's what they're trying to get away from. You don't know what you're taking when you have an OG Kush, because anything could be named OG Kush. I can name any plant in the world that. And I think that in New York, they wanted to specifically tie a name to a ratio of THC and CBD. And I think that what really matters is THC and CBD for us. And the reason I think that is, in a medical model, you can only control so much. The underlying cannabinoids, the terpenes, it's got to start somewhere. And so the two most beneficial and the two most common cannabinoids in any marijuana plant are THC and CBD, or the THCA, CBDA as well. And so let's start somewhere. Let's start with regulating that before we open ourselves up to the rest of the world and the different cannabinoids. And they test for 10 others, but there's like 60 different cannabinoids, and then you get to the terpenes. So in a real medical model, you really need to start with what you can control. And so that's where we focused. And yes, we're always looking for what do those underlying cannabinoids do? Where's the research behind that? Can we produce a brand that really emphasizes that cannabinoid for a particular symptom relief and that kind of thing? And we're headed in that direction, but you can only do that once you have a foundation, which is really THC, CBD, and associating that with a name. So he can't call something Dolce and make it high THC, because we have a high CBD brand called Dolce, and that's just not going to be allowed, which means there's not going to be confusion in New York State about who's selling what and what does that mean for me as a patient. So it's really on the patient's behalf, again, that they did this, and I think from a medical perspective, it's really important.